We're in Lovell Canyon today between Las Vegas and Pahrump. And what you're looking at is our goal. We're going to see if we can reach Harris Mountain. And the route we're going to take is the Wilson Ridge, which is up in this direction. And last week we reached the Wilson Ridge high point. Now we're going to go beyond that high point. I think I've got a really good streamlined route. And Harris Mountain is at the upper end of Lovell Canyon, as is Griffith Peak. It's supposed to be 98 degrees in the Las Vegas Valley today. This is the last weekend in June. It was something like 78 degrees when I left the Las Vegas Valley this morning. To give you an idea, we're about 2,000 feet higher in elevation, 2,000 to 3,000 feet. And by the way, there's the beast. And my estimation is that for every 1,000 feet elevation you gain, you lose 5 degrees. Well, I'm shivering right now. It's 56 degrees. So we're about that's about what I expected. So 98 degrees in the Las Vegas Valley. It will be, I don't know, 70 degrees once it warms up on the route that I'm taking. So anyway, this is the upper end of Lovell Canyon Road where we're starting. And the way we reach the approach ridge for the Wilson Ridge High Point is right across Lovell Canyon Road. There's Lovell Canyon Road, and you'll see a couple boulders, and that's our entrance point to ascend this approach ridge. And I'll show you in a bit a little more about the approach ridge. Anyway, good parking area right across Lovell Canyon Road. So even though nothing is marked here, it's actually got everything you need. And then over here is the entrance to the Torino Ranch and Children's Camp. And we'll be seeing that from above very soon. So we're heading up this ridge, the approach ridge to the Wilson Ridge South High Point. Here we go. As you make your way up this first ridge from the parking area, like the rest of the route, there are no trails. And you're just basically weaving around through the brush. But you can weave around all right. The brush is going to get thicker. The sage is going to be more, it's going to be a lot sharper. And you're heading toward the sunrise. So you're pretty much blinded on the uphill, but you know you want to get to this first rise and then angle to the right, and we'll see where we are when we reach that first rise. As I mentioned, the sage down this lower 25% of the ascent ridge to the Wilson Ridge High Point, the lower 25% has a lot of sharp sage. I got lacerated last week, so I rigged up some sage protectors here. got my knee brace, which is a shock absorber, and also protects me as I'm climbing. And then I took the lower part of some pants. They're really working well, and connected them to my leg with the knee brace, and it's just an excellent sage guard here. Okay, onward. Okay, here's an idea of the start point. And we've been ascending the ridge above the start point. There's our parking area. And here's the Torino Ranch and Children's Camp. And then to complete the big picture of where we are, this is the first summit of a ridge, first high point, and we're going to continue along to the right after we reach this high point. We've reached the first high point. There's the Torino Ranch below. And there is Lovell Summit Road heading off toward the campground, which is right in this area, Lovell Campground. And then you can see the Summit Road continuing to wind upward. There is Sexton Ridge heading up to Griffith Peak. And then you see a saddle. And then Harris Mountain is the next high point beyond that saddle. And what we're shooting for is the Wilson Ridge South High Point, which is right up here. But to get there, we need to take a kind of crescent wide circuit that begins heading up this ridge, and then we'll see the crescent when we get to the top of this ridge that begins to angle around toward the high point. So that's where we are. And then just to give you the rest of the 360 degree, there is Potosi Mountain down at the southern end of Lovell Canyon, and there's the southern stretch of Lovell Canyon, and then back around to the Torino Ranch below. And the reason I point out the Torino Ranch a couple times is that that is going to be one of your main reference points as you're heading back down from the Lovell Canyon high point, and the Wilson Ridge South High Point. Now there's a canyon below, the canyon of Torino Ranch. Don't go to the north side. It's much more brutal. Lots of brush to encounter that will just slow you down tremendously. Rather take the wide circuit on the south side of this little canyon. Okay, onward. Okay, it's time to read the ridge here. So there is our start point below. And there's the Torino Ranch. We came up this ridge right here. When we reached the summit of the ridge, we headed over in this direction, taking a jog to the south. And let's take a better look. Okay, and there is the next high point we want to reach. My mistake last week was to think that, wow, there's no way along a ridge here, so I descended down into the canyon, cross the canyon below. We definitely don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to head to this next high point, look around and see where the next descent is, because we want the ridge that's going to take us up to the Wilson Ridge South High Point. And there is a ridge that is very gradual, nice ridge. We want to find that ridge. And even though I descended by that ridge last week, it's not totally evident where it is. So let's get up to this next high point and look around and see if we can find a route that continues up. Okay, I overshot the ridge. Actually, I ascended one high point too far. That's that rocky high point I am on right now. And as you can see, it does not really lead to a ridge. On the other hand, if you look at this high point immediately before, there it is. You head down and then you ascend up toward the Wilson Ridge High Point. So that's what we want. That's the approach ridge we want. I was looking at this other high point over here thinking, well, is this the Wilson Ridge High Point? And the answer is nope. That is not it. It is this high point here, and the approach ridge is that ridge, and it's on the south side of the canyon of Torino Ranch. So we're just going to head back down. We didn't go too far off course, but it allowed us to get to a higher point where we can see a little more clearly where we are. So yeah, we're going to head back down to this lower high point, take a right, and then watch for this approach ridge to the Wilson Ridge South High Point. Okay, we've made it quite a bit up this ridge, and you can see the Torino Ranch below us. We're probably 2/3 of the way to the Wilson Ridge South High Point, but this is looking down the ridge, and our route was from where we are here down over to this point, and then you can see when you're on that ridge that I just pointed out, you can see the end point where the car is parked. Here is the Lovell Summit Road heading upward, and then looking in this direction, you can see Sexton Ridge leading up to Griffith Peak, and then looking over in this direction, you can see the ridge we are on and how it winds around toward the Wilson Ridge South High Point. I think we're about 1,000 feet below that. Once we get up to that high point, we'll see a route toward Harris Mountain. And we're going to go as far as we can toward Harris Mountain. Okay, we've invested about 3 hours so far, and I think there's about a half hour that we lost just by virtue of poking around on the ridge, finding the right approach ridge. So 2.5 hours to this point. Okay, let's continue on up. Oh, by the way, yeah, there's the Wilson Ridge heading downward or south. And right in this area is where it connects with the Rainbow Mountains Upper Crest Ridgeline. And I think what you're seeing there is the Upper Crest Ridgeline. And there's Potosi Mountain. And our reference bluff, landmark bluff. And then back over to the Torino Ranch below. And yeah, 98 degrees in Las Vegas. I would say we're in the 60s where I am right now. And it's 10 o'clock. Okay, it's the second time in as many weeks that we're on the Wilson Ridge South High Point. This time I've got a little time to head down toward Harris Mountain. But just to take a look at what we're seeing, we started down at the Torino Ranch and took that ridge to the right of the to the left of the canyon. We took that ridge upward to where we are now. It took about 5 hours. Let's zoom in on the Lovell Summit Road. And then you see opening up before us, there's Lovell Canyon below and Sexton Ridge leading up to Griffith Peak. Over to Charleston Peak. And yes, if you want to take this ridge, Wilson Ridge, up to Harris Mountain, you're going to go along this tree line just on the right side. You see there was a burn, and up to Harris Mountain. That's another 7 miles. I don't know if I've got enough gas to head all the way up there. But what I'm going to do is descend. Now, let's look around a little more. Down in Lovell Canyon, I believe that we're looking at Handy Peak below. Let's zoom in on it. And then you can see the canyon going upward from Handy Peak. The reason I'm looking at this carefully is that today we just may go down this ridge here, the Wilson Ridge, and then head over to Lovell Canyon. And so we're going to want to know basically where we are in the canyon in order to find our way back. Hopefully we hit the Lovell Canyon trail, but there's a lot of brush between us and the base of Lovell Canyon. So we'll see what we can do. I don't even know what I'm going to do yet. Okay, and there is Harris Mountain Road below Harris Mountain. So approach routes to Harris Mountain. And then let's look around here, see what we see from this direction. Yeah, we're looking down into Kyle Canyon. And here's Angel Peak. Then over in this direction, here's La Madre and El Padre Mountains. And the Las Vegas Valley on the other side. More things. See, last week it wasn't this clear, and it was roaring wind up here. There is the Sheep Range. And there is Gas Peak. Little bit of the Las Vegas Valley down below. And then the Wilson Ridge heading south. And if we come back up here, be able to see some of the Rainbow Mountains. Yeah. See if I can get between the trees. From the left to the right would be White Rock Mountain. And then Bridge Mountain. there's Bridge Mountain. Let's go back this way a little bit. And White Rock Mountain should be down here. That's White Rock Mountain, Bridge Mountain, Rainbow Mountain, and Mount Wilson. Then over this direction, Potosi Mountain. And then, I am not sure, but I believe the valley there, you see the white sand. I don't think that's Pahrump area. I think it's one valley beyond. Maybe the Amargosa Valley? So there you have it. Pretty much what we can see from here. Now, what we're going to do is stay on this line, this burn line between the burn and the forest. You can see that distinct line. We're going to head down and then maybe circle around into Lovell Canyon. We don't know. Let's just see what happens when we get down there. By the way, there's Mummy Mountain. And we are going to take this tree line down. And it's a pretty good indication of where the summit of the ridge is, because that's where the fire, whenever it occurred, stopped, right at that tree line. So let's just take this down, see where we end up. This ridge is really fast, and just sticking to the tree line, the top of the burn line, and you can see where the trees are here. It gets pretty brushy close to that tree line, so I'm having to weave around a little bit. But continuing downward, there you can see down into Lovell Canyon with Griffith Peak above. And then just looking at the burn area here. So everything on the northeast side of this ridge burned at one time. Okay, onward. In case you're wondering about taking the Wilson Ridge, what looked from above like pretty wide open area is actually, there are, I guess these might be mountain mahogany that were burned, but wow, they really created a network of branches blocking progress, so that's slowing things down a bit. And then here we are looking back up to the high point. So yeah, not as easy as it looked from a distance. Here's something interesting. This is the backside of what I'm going to call Sky Canyon Ridge, just because it's above Sky Canyon and I can't find a name for it. Sure, it has a name, but I haven't been able to find it. And it looks like there's a little trail. So that will be a future adventure. Sky Canyon Ridge If you were to continue to the right, you would end up at Summerland Ridge and the Cheyenne Mountain area. So just to give you an idea what's out here. Okay, looking back toward that Wilson Ridge South High Point, you see the tree line that we have been descending. A lot of mountain mahogany here. The reason I think it's mountain mahogany is that on the other side of the ridge that's not burned, it's populated pretty heavily with mountain mahogany and pine. These are not pine, they're mountain mahogany, I believe. And then the view looking ahead, anything but a wide open pathway here. On the Wilson Ridge, between the tree line to our left or west and the burn area to the right or east, and yeah, give you an idea what we're dealing with here as we traverse this area. Yeah, it's not the easiest area to traverse, but then again, there have been more brushy areas, more difficult areas, but it's just a case of winding your way through this burn area. And let's see what we can see when we reach the top of this rise. Look at the next stretch and do a 360. Yeah, I had to get the muffler on because the top of the rise, the wind of course is kicking up again. But you can see ahead, there's Griffith Peak and Charleston Peak, the snow-capped peaks. And then here's Harris Mountain. And you can see how the Wilson Ridge winds right up from where we are right here up to Harris Mountain. And I'd say there's probably 6 more miles to go. I don't think I can do it in daylight, but just wanted to get close to it today and just see about an exit point that gets us back into Lovell Canyon. Then we'll take the Lovell Canyon Trail. By the way, let's do that 360. Here we are looking toward, well, Harris Mountain up there. Then toward Angel Peak. Then continuing around, there's the Sheep Range. And then you're looking up the Wilson Ridge. Burn on your left, tree line on your right. Okay, a plan is beginning to form. I'm going to head down to where that tree line meets up with a ridge that heads down toward Lovell Canyon. Then I'm going to look for a way to go down into Lovell Canyon. If I went further up and then decided to go down into Lovell Canyon, I think that would take me way up the canyon. So I'm going to take that ridge downward into Lovell Canyon and then cross the canyon and catch Lovell Canyon Trail. So anyway, here we are on the Wilson Ridge. You can see the tree line ahead. And actually on Google Satellite, you can see where that tree line is and where it ends, right about here. And then it's pretty barren all the way up to the summit of Harris Mountain. So it gives you an idea of the lay of the land here. And you can see Harris Mountain Road. And we actually aren't too far from Harris Mountain Road. So this is a really cool little circuit that gives you an experience of the Wilson Ridge and then down into Lovell Canyon. And where we reach Lovell Canyon, that's where I will start up toward Harris Mountain on the Wilson Ridge. For now, we're just making this circuit. We're going to cover a portion of the Wilson Ridge. It's amazing what nature does when no one's watching. Flowers in bloom in this very isolated place, probably never seen by any human except right now. And we are in a bit of a meadow here. So you can see the borderline between life and death. It's burn area on the left and an area just packed with life on the right. And here we are on the Wilson Ridge, north of the Wilson Ridge, South High Point, just to give you an idea what else is in the area. Another reference point, Wilson Ridge up to the summit of Harris Mountain, the one on the right. So we'll be looking for a pathway down, or just a ridge down. I don't think there are any pathways on this ridge. A ridge down into Lovell Canyon that's not going to go over the side of anything vertical. Okay, here we go. Continuing north on the Wilson Ridge, and there's Harris Mountain. It doesn't seem like we're getting any closer. And what I want to do is circle around this wooded area and then look for a way down into Lovell Canyon. And just to give a 360, there is Griffith Peak, Sexton Ridge heading south. You can see the forested area. I'm staying as much as I can on this band that is burnt. It's a little more clear. In some places, not much. Quite a tangle of fallen trees and branches. But there's where I came down from. Looking back over at the sheep range. Circling around. Back at Harris Mountain and Griffith Peak. And Lovell Canyon is to the left and downhill from this ridge that I'm on, the Wilson Ridge. So yeah, we're going to just see what's around the corner here. Okay, I think I might be on that ridge that heads down that we saw from above. Not sure. I better not be on the north ridge of the Torino Ranch Canyon. Anyway, yeah, a lot of weaving around up here. Give you a little taste of what we're dealing with. Now this ridge continues up naturally, so we'll continue angling up and then hopefully it'll dive down into Lovell Canyon. Well, that was a brutal little forest to pass through, but yeah, you can see the ridge I was on above it. You can barely see it on the horizon. But now panning around, I've come out into the open. There's Harris Mountain ahead. And better yet, let's see, let's take a closer look. Wilson Ridge up to Harris Mountain. And probably, I'd say that's no more than 3, maybe 4 miles away. Not bad. So what we're looking at is potential of heading down one of these ridges into Lovell Canyon. Hopefully there's not some real steep drop-offs between us and the canyon. The canyon is below. There you can see Sexton Ridge on the other side, leading up to Griffith Peak. So give an idea of the bearings here. And you know, between Harris on the right, Griffith on the left, is Lovell Canyon. So these ridges should lead down toward Lovell Canyon, as long as there aren't any barriers. Let's go ahead and give them a try. Here we go. And by the way, might as well finish the 360-degree view. There you're over at Potosi Mountain. So yeah, when I thought we might be heading down that north ridge of the Torino Ranch Canyon, no, we're beyond it. So that's good news. Okay, let's see what's down these ridges. Curiously, looking back, we may be looking all the way up to the Wilson Ridge South High Point. Not sure, but that's a good candidate up there. See if we can find our way down this ridge. Okay, heading down this ridge. And just a future note, if I can find a connector down in Lovell Canyon to this ridge, then the next stretch on the Wilson Ridge trail up toward Harris Mountain would be right ahead. And there's Harris Mountain. So yeah, the way to get there would be to be on this ridge if there's a good connector below. And head up to this point, take a left, and head over to Harris Mountain. Okay, wouldn't you know it, 3 ridges to choose from. There's one to the north, nice and gradual all the way down to Lovell Canyon. There's one to the south, nice and gradual all the way down to Lovell Canyon. And I chose the one in the middle, the only one that drops off. So yeah, I think I'm going to head back over to this next ridge and then head down this ridge. And you can see it right here. And then right down into the canyon. And I believe down there I can catch the Lovell Canyon Trail. Okay, now I'm on the better ridge to the south, looking at that place I was standing not long ago to the north. And yeah, there were some rocky areas, but from this perspective, it looks like I could have continued down. It would have been pretty steep. Oh well, I'm over here now and heading down this way. Okay, it's looking like this nice ridge is going to lead all the way down, and then down in Lovell Canyon there are some trail connectors. You can see them below. That'll get us onto the Lovell Canyon trail system, and from there it's just a matter of making our way down to the base of the canyon and back to our start point. And by the way, that other ridge that I thought was a dead end actually would have made it down also. So you can choose any of these ridges and they'll take you down back to Lovell Canyon. So this is a good part-way experience, and then you can ascend any of these ridges. I think I would prefer the one to the north, and that gets you back on the Wilson Ridge and up to Harris Mountain. I came down a very steep, rocky slope. I think it might have been up in this direction, or it might have been this one. I really don't know. But anyway, yeah, very steep, loose rock, and then waded through some manzanita barrier brush, and then found a wash. I almost never travel in washes, but this one was better than the manzanita barrier brush. Very narrow wash that eventually opened up into this wash. And my hope is this is all leading down to Lovell Canyon. We will see. Time to check in again. I'm in Lovell Canyon, and wow, this is really beautiful. There's been more rain here than previous years, than previous decade, I think. And look at the flowers. They are just amazing. All through the canyon. This is just a small sampling. Wow. Okay, winding our way down the canyon. And by the way, just to give an idea where we were at one point up on this ridge, and then headed over to the ridge to the right and descended that ridge. But we were fairly close to Harris Mountain. There it is. And you can see Harris Mountain Road. It's that straight line. So anyway, yeah, this is where we are now. And we're going to head down Lovell Canyon and maybe catch the Lovell Canyon Trail. I don't know. We're going to have to find out exactly what we're going to do. But that's the way the whole day has gone. Pretty exciting. Okay, onward. Here's something I've never seen in Lovell Canyon. Okay, crossed Lovell Canyon. Actually, I took it downstream a little bit, but then the brush got just too thick and the water was really high. Pretty amazing. I've never seen Lovell Canyon water flowing so strongly. Anyway, I've never seen Lovell Canyon water flowing at all, actually. But now we've crossed Lovell Canyon and have connected with the trail system. The trail will lead us down to the upper camp, and then we've got a 1/4 mile of road, the Lovell Summit Road, to reach the beast. So what a day. Yeah, we've been over on Wilson Ridge. And actually ascended to the South High Point and then took Wilson Ridge for quite a ways toward Harris Mountain, and then came down to Lovell Canyon, crossed Lovell Canyon, connected with the trail system here, and here we are on the home stretch. And here's a good shot of the Wilson Ridge. And we made it up to this point here, and then backtracked to this ridge, took this ridge down. But we were still, I bet we were 1 to 2 miles from Harris Mountain Road, and then another mile or two to Harris Mountain. So we were within 4 miles of Harris Mountain. Were I to try this again, I would start out higher in Lovell Canyon, cross the canyon, and take the ridge from where we left off. I just happened to be at a spot I can see my whole approach, everything I've done today. There you have the Wilson Ridge South High Point, and we ascended that from the right or the south, and then we went along the Wilson Ridge. See if we can get more of the Wilson Ridge in there. There, yeah, we headed left or north down the Wilson Ridge, and up toward Harris Mountain, which is right there. We didn't make it all the way to Harris Mountain. We made it to, I believe it was this high point. So it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it was a good chunk of the Wilson Ridge going north toward Harris Mountain. We were within about 4 to 5 miles of Harris Mountain when we headed down the ridge to Lovell Canyon, which is below. Crossed Lovell Canyon and then ascended this side, the west side of Lovell Canyon, and here we are on the main Lovell Canyon Trail. So what's left of the Wilson Ridge is from this point north to Harris Mountain, and from the Wilson Ridge South high point, I'd like to take that to Rocky Gap Road and make a circuit of that. And then we will have done the entire Wilson Ridge. It is a very beautiful ridge, and as you're on the ridge, you can see Kyle Canyon to the east and Lovell Canyon to the west, and Harris Mountain and Griffith Peak ahead of you. And you can turn around the other direction, south, and you can see Potosi Mountain. So it is a ridge of spectacular views. And we're going to call this adventure the Wilson Ridge Lovell Canyon Loop, because that's basically what we did. Okay, onward. And here we are at the trailhead for the Lovell Canyon Trail. And here is the Lovell Canyon Campground. It's the upper campground. Very, very nice. A lot of great places to park your car or your RV. I don't think you need a reservation. I think it's first come, first serve. And I do not believe there is a fee. Lovell Canyon is definitely a car camper's paradise. And this is Lovell Summit Road. And we've got about a quarter mile descending this road. We'll be back at the Beast, and conclusion of another awesome adventure. So here we are back at the Beast. I wanted to demonstrate one thing. Here, remember the sage shields. Boy, I was a bit frustrated that I could not cut these pants with scissors. And that actually turned out to be a good thing. I had to get an X-Acto knife and just rip away at them. It's a very tight weave of nylon, and it totally protected me from a whole lot of sharp sage. So that was definitely a good choice. And then because they're only on the lower leg, I kept cool. I was able to wear shorts through all of that underbrush. So yeah, that was a very good decision. Okay, heading back home.